Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Let's See Transfer Room. You were with Dan, American Dan, Cole, and Stu. It's another 2-0 win. It's Arne Slot's first game at Anfield. It's a great result. It's not the most exciting, I suppose, of games that you could go in there, but there was plenty of chances, plenty of opportunities, records broken, records taken away, and most importantly, 3 points on the board. Thank you very much for joining us. Put your comments in for me. Get involved in the chat. If you've not been on with me on a Sunday, I want you to talk to me. I want to hear your thoughts and your opinions. Get involved in what we're talking about. And if I can somehow fish hook it into it, I'll put it into the chat for us. Okay. Stu, how are you doing? What did you make of today's game? What impressed you the most?
Again, very good result. I'm very happy with it. I think it was for an early game in the season, I think it's quite an efficient performance. I think it's probably the word that I would use to describe today's game. There were a few moments, obviously, where Brentford, I think they could have, if they pushed us a little bit harder, maybe could have stuck a goal out of us. But whatever work Slot is doing on the training ground at the moment defensively, it seems to be paying off. We're looking a little bit more solid, and we're definitely looking, I would say, more patient as well. There's definitely that whole gung-ho attitude of going from end to end. It seems to have been knocked out of the team already. And I'm going to echo what Kara said at the end game interview as well. It was more of a professional performance that you'd expect from the likes of City. So if we keep those performances going, I'll be more than happy come the end of the season if we're still pushing up the top of the table, which I think we will be if we keep on doing it this way. So a lot more stable.
I've said it from the start. I've said it before the season kicked off. If anyone thought anything but a title challenge is good enough, you're wrong. Arne Slot's not here to get top four. I don't believe that's his opinion. I believe his opinion is to come here and say, them lads are really good, you know. You know, them ones that I've got in the team, the ones who only finished 9 points off the top of the table last year, within which the wheels fell off. And a lot of the time, we were our own worst enemy last year with why results didn't go our own way. What we're seeing so far, and the sample size is very small, but I think you've nailed it. We are so much more of a patient team. What who doesn't feel like it constantly has to find a way to have things happen, to have things constantly happen. We've got to create this basketball atmosphere where we can end up winning 4-1. And that's great. But what you said there is to win a league more consistently, you do need to be more like Man City. You do need to be more controlled. You do need to be sitting there and saying, right, 1-0. Counter attack was exquisite, and we'll go on to that in a minute. I'll actually bring that up into Cole. Actually, I'll bring that question to him. It was reminiscent of what we saw under Mo Salah and Sadio Mane. It was just, the rockets were firing, ball right out, and Luis Diaz doing exactly what I've wanted him to do all of last season. I was an advocate for him to go. That was something he didn't do last season, by the way. He doesn't take that shot. He waits, and he draws it in, and he ends up, it becoming a pass. But what a great goal. Cole, straight onto yourself there, mate. What impressed you the most there? And obviously just give me a little bit of a discussion around what you thought of the goal that we scored under Luis Diaz.
Yeah, the impression I had was, wow, my heart rate's low the whole time. It just didn't spike like at all. I was it was very casual, but not in an unprofessional way. It was casual, we looked like we just wanted to rock up and win the game and go home. And that's what we did. And we weren't really interested in taking unnecessary chances or really pushing it too far. Something that I think you guys have said and will continue to reiterate, that when we win games like this, we could have used more of this in multiple seasons past.
Yeah.
So I think that's really the big takeaway so far, which is that I think we're going to get some professional, some very professional wins. And I'll be interested to see what it looks like against better opposition. Just more generally, if we have to chase the game, but for the goal was ruthless. Huge, speaking of efficiency, huge efficiency. I can't remember. This was probably 3 years ago now, but we were often cited as being we were most dangerous when the opposition has a free kick or a corner kick. just because of how quickly we can transition from, defending with 9 people in the box to we're running 3 people directly at you and you just can't catch us. Yeah. I have no problem scoring goals like that. I love a goal like that. I don't need it to be beautiful. It's hugely encouraging, I think, to see clear-cut chances and them to be put away. Especially when you look at it in the sense of, that Brentford are going to really try to focus on set pieces. So what is maybe an antidote to Brentford, which is, okay, well, we'll punish them for wanting to put so many people forward or having their goalie take set pieces like frequently. I love that as a tactical point against who I think are a incredibly well coached team.
Absolutely. I mean, Arne Slot actually brought this up in his sort of pre-game chat. Was he talked about the fact that he mentioned that Brentford are able to play two different formations and 2 different styles of football to suit them because they've been together for so many years, and that's something that he's obviously wants to work towards with us. And that's what we saw today. We saw a very big, strong physical unit in Brentford, a very different challenge to Ipswich, to be totally honest with you. And it has to be said, a lot of people, they were poor last season, Brentford, and they all look very, very sort of worn down. Probably that sort of normally get that second season syndrome. I think they had third season syndrome where things just weren't quite going the way. Everything wasn't as happy or as fun anymore. And they had a really difficult season last year. But, look at the way that they played against Crystal Palace, a team that a lot of people are saying are going to be, right up there. They've not started very well at all, to be totally honest with you. Dan, I'll go over to yourself there. I was really, really impressed with the defensive display, which is something that we didn't encourage Brentford. We didn't give them any opportunities, didn't give them any look-ins. We didn't say to them, well, go on, have this for you to make you feel like there's a chance here. I felt like we smothered them. I felt like at no time did I really feel like, oh, Brentford have got a good chance here. Brentford have got a good opportunity. We were always able to put out any fire, even on the number of occasions where they had a breakaway. What defensively, how much do you think has changed from what we saw last season, even with the same players?
I don't think a lot's really changed in terms of the shape, in terms of what they're trying to do. It's more of we're not getting stuck in transition. So you notice, like you said, we smothered them when Brentford were breaking away. A lot of times we'd have 2 players back, or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. So we were always in position when we lost the ball to prevent a quick counterattack transition. Last year, that would have been closer to 2 or 1 at times when, there was a couple of times when it was Mbeumo Wissa. And I think even last year, the same game at Anfield, there was a breakaway, and I think it was just Verge. It may have even been Verge or Robbo, or maybe Trent, that was just back covering 2 players. So there's definitely a switch on the dial of risk taking. I don't think there's a lot really much more different than what Klopp and Lenders have done going back to Vvd'S back in 2017, 2016. It's just now the emphasis is different, and there's a little bit less risk taking in terms of trying to score every game. It reminds me a lot of actually the 2019-2020 season, the title-winning season, because Liverpool were very, very good at getting a goal, a quick counter-attacking goal, and just killing the game, smothering the game. And the other side would get into it, maybe get a set-piece goal, but even if they got another goal, you just knew that Liverpool were just going to pick back up again. So there definitely seems to be a little bit more control, a little bit more emphasis on passing, still a lot of pressing going on, but definitely, and I think you've seen this even in the goal that wasn't scored, the goal of August that wasn't scored by Salah, where that's a very similar move to the Newcastle goal, again, the title-winning season, where it's like pass, hold, pass, hold, pass, hold. Salah shoots and scores. It's very similar to one of his goals he scored when it was Firmino, and I'm pretty sure it was 2019, 2020. It was Steve Bruce's Newcastle though, so I don't remember if that was at the time, but I do remember the goal. Yeah, I was gonna say. So there's a lot of good things going on right now. Obviously, the big question is, what do you do when things go wrong? I think last year we found out very quickly what happens when things go wrong. We still won a lot of games, but I think it's interesting because Steve Warnock and John Champion were the commentary for the American broadcast. He had said that Liverpool went behind 18 games last year. Our record was 7 wins, 7 draws, and 4 losses. Now, on a whole, a 50% win ratio, or just under 50% ratio going behind, is pretty good. But it's also, if you remember all the games we went behind in that we did not win and probably should have, your Lutons, United, we drew. We didn't go behind in. No, we did go behind 2-1. That's right. United away, where we were just so much the better team. I'm trying to think of an important one. City, I guess, but like we drew that at the end. I don't think it was a big deal. If we can just have more control, especially with teams in the lower, like from 10th and below, like we're going to be in a title challenge. And we've been in a title challenge pretty much. We would have been in a title challenge every single year had things just worked out a little better on the injury front. The thing that stopped us from winning titles, people argue it's transfers, and that's perfectly fine to make that argument, has mostly been injuries and timing. Consider the fact we lost on 2 titles by 1 point. We won 1 title by a record number of points earlier as possible. Yeah, like you said, Slot's here to win leagues, and he doesn't have loyalty to any of these players. Vice versa, they also don't have loyalty to him, but they also need to impress him to be in the team. So Slot's just going to win these games no matter what. It doesn't matter what he does. But I do like that he's been very flexible. So at times he's been like, all right, guys, you don't need to do all the short passing, just go long. He's been very adaptable in his approach, which I think that Klopp at times wasn't. And I think that was more, and I don't think that was because Klopp wasn't smart enough or he couldn't figure it out, or I don't think it was any lack of him not recognize the problem. I think it was Klopp like, these boys will solve the problem for me, and which is what makes Jurgen so special. But Slot at this point in time is like, I need to win games. I want to win games. I want to win a league. If you notice, when he did the walkout, he didn't touch the "you'll never walk alone" sign. So he's kind of continuing that tradition that Jurgen said. It's like, we don't touch the sign until we win something. So yeah, I mean, it's nice. All I can say is Hughes out, Slot out, FSG out, Mo Salah out, Anfield out. Get rid of everybody. It's not good enough anymore. We're 2 games up, and we should be like 6-0 up at this point. So we have to have negativity in this chat.
Well, this, this is what we need. I don't know. It's one of those. I said it multiple times, so everyone will know my thoughts and opinions from it. Is that I never bought into the idea of saying that, oh well, top 4 is. No, it's not. It isn't. It isn't good enough, and that might make people feel better, and that's okay. But look at the team we have. Look at the players we have available to us. You're going to sit there and tell me that these lads can't win every game they go into? They're not going to be the favourites in 95% of the matches that they play. Of course they are. We'll need a bit of luck. Arsenal got a lot of luck last season with injuries. Hardly any injuries, and we were able to have 9 out of 11 of their starting players played 35 games. That is that little bit of luck that sometimes that you need. We didn't quite get it. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Diogo Jota, the list goes on, of course. Joel Matip with an ACL. These things do happen, I'm afraid. But this is a team who has clearly bought into what Arne Slot and his team have come in to do. He will benefit from the fact that the wins are coming. He'll benefit from the fact that he's coming over these challenges. Is that it's much easier to convince people to get people on side when you keep winning. And it's been the perfect start. Getting a game against Manchester United, obviously next Sunday, is probably the best time to play them before anyone's able to start and have a look at who we are and start getting an idea of what it is exactly we're going to present as a threat to them. His tactical flexibility that he's mentioned, he is very Dutch, which is also means he's very honest. And I like that. I love the fact that he's incredibly honest in the way that he does things. When people ask him a question, he'll just answer it. There's no sort of like PR spin to things. There's no sort of comms to it. It's just a case of, no, this is what we're going to do. But if there's an opportunity for us to play it long, that's what we'll do. Please don't stop doing the things that we do really well. And something that we did really well, which was that counter-attack, that was something which this club has done for many, many years. I'll go to Stu. Luis Diaz, I have been a critic of him most of last season and prior to this transfer window, based on the fact that he didn't do enough of what he did today, which was when he's put in a position to score or to create an assist, he does that job. Today, he went out there and did exactly what I wanted him to do. I couldn't be happier to be proven wrong because that's what I'd rather happen. I'd much rather him come out there and do it. Luis Diaz, man of the match today. I don't really think there's much arguments in that situation. Where's Cody Gakpo fitting in this team? Quite honestly,
that's just the nature of football, isn't it?
Yeah.
If a player's in form, you ain't going to dislodge him.
No.
Diaz, I think, realizes that now. Right at the start of the game, one of the commentators, I can't remember who it was, came out with an interesting stat that Diaz has a goal and assist in every 1 in 4 to nearly 5 games for Liverpool now. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, that is not a good enough stat from that side of the pitch when you're supposed to be a inside forward / supporting striker coming off that left-hand wing. Now, I'm presuming that Diaz has probably had that reiterated to him a little bit and produced a performance today. A performance that we kind of got spoiled with when he first arrived in the January from Porto, when he hit the ground absolutely running and just took the Premier League by storm for those last 5 months of the Premier League. That is what we wanted, but last season obviously we didn't get it.
No.
Today we did, but now it's down to consistency more than anything else, and that's the one thing that does worry me, because Diaz did do it fleetingly last season, but not back to back to back, so to speak. Gakpo was there ready and waiting. He proved that. Only 15 minutes on the pitch, a couple of really, really good shots. He could have scored quite easily if it wasn't for, what was it, Collins' noggin getting in the way and just flipping it over the bar. I mean, that was a hell of a piece of defending. I'll give him credit for that. But Gakpo, I think, will bide his time. Yes, he'll be frustrated a little bit. But at the moment, Diaz in the first couple of games is on too good a form to take out of the side. And I don't believe in taking players out just for the pure sake of it. It's pointless. Diaz stays in form. He stays in the team.
Yeah, I mean, I said this in our group chat beforehand. Obviously, I know Gakpo had a fantastic Euros. He had a very good sort of end of last season as well. He really had improved on his situation. But I said from the start, I said Luis Diaz is our starting left winger, and that's as simple as that. There's going to be a mountain to climb for Cody Gakpo to become a starting left winger in this Liverpool team, and it concerns me a little bit. I think Paul put in a great comment there. He said that it's great to have Darwin Núñez, Cody Gakpo, and Harvey Elliott as bench options, which is incredible depth, incredible attacking depth, and the options that is available to us. There's a big season ahead for us, is in excess of 60 games if everything goes the way we want it to go. An awful lot of football to be played. It's just going to have to be a time. It's going to be a time to take and to be able to sit there and accept that it's not going to be probably he's going to be a starting player in a vast majority of our games. So, I mean, it's disappointing, but I do worry a little bit for his long-term future, to be honest with you, because he's better than a substitute for Liverpool. That's my opinion, but it just depends on how long that situation is going to.
I agree with that. I think he's probably going to evaluate. I don't think it's going to be a rush decision. If Diaz stays in form this entire season and keeps Gakpo reduced to, say, cup games and substitute appearances, then fair point. I think Gakpo probably will reevaluate things come next summer.
Yeah.
But as I say, that's just the nature of football. You can only have 11 players on the pitch, and that's why we need the squad. As you say, 60 plus games this season. If everything goes our way, then we're going to still need him. I'm sure he understands that, and so it's only 2 games into the season, so let's not have a little pouty session like Trent did.
Yes, definitely. Carl, we'll go into the second half. The first half was statistically and on the eye a much slower, probably Ipswich style start. We only had 2 shots on target. We scored one of the goals, which was great. That's an improvement. Less touches in the box, less shots in total. We go into the second half, and again, we've seen like Liverpool have gone up a couple of gears, and I thought we came out of the blocks. 60 minutes, again, very reminiscent of what we saw against Ipswich, and you just saw the opposition team had dropped back, and Brentford were like, right, when's this goal coming? We'll go into Mo Salah. Of course, he's back in amongst the goals. We saw that there was little moves. There was one where we could have seen a goal of the season at contender had we just got that final pass just before he got into his goal. Mo Salah, record break. Well, another player. He's dropped down the rankings. Robbie Fowler is now one behind him, goals at Anfield, and that just shows the measure of the man. Mo Salah, if this is his last year, he's going out with a bang, isn't he?
His quality is absolutely unquestioned. Especially his quality, like crossed with longevity.
Yeah,
it is like truly unmatched. He's so smart. He knows what he does well and better than anyone else. I think better than anybody else, which has continued to prolong his peak or his, the heights of what he can do. He's always a joy to watch. Any year that we're playing FPL and he's not picked, I'm like, I'm an idiot. Like, I'm stupid. I should have just made sure to, like, he should have been the first one on the team, and then I could figure out how to get everybody else in after.
Yeah.
He's so like, I'm having a hard time coming to grips with, like, when he is gone, whenever that is, whether it's next season or whether he signs a 2-year contract or whatever it is, that, like, you won't see another player like him for probably, 2 decades.
Yeah.
Like, it just is like he's sublime. He's absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. Where's the contract? Like, just sign the contract, please. Give him, like, nobody sign the contract. Just give
sign
him
the thing.
Sign it.
Sign the contract, big boy.
United are back, baby. It's like, put whatever you want. United are back, baby.
I truly, like, I saw someone was yelling at the why can't I remember his name, the FSG owner, as he was coming out of the
John Henry.
Yeah,
can't remember Big John.
I'm just blanking.
Papa John
was yelling at John as he was coming out the tunnel, like, any more signings, John? And he just like I don't care if there's any more signings. Like, I need contracts. I need those 3 contracts. I need
plenty
them
of time for contracts
now.
Loads of time.
Sign the contracts.
Loads of time. I'll be honest with you. I think the contract situation is something that gets dealt with, obviously, post-transfer window. There is no rush. There's no point between now and then where any of these players can leave. There's a lot of time the time is ticking when it comes to who can come into this club. We do, I believe, need. I would say, if anywhere in the pitch for me, I would say we need probably a couple of defensive signings more than anybody. And I don't just mean bring in bodies. I mean bringing in starting quality level players. I don't want us to bring in 3 lads, of which none of them are going to be. And respect, I don't need them at the level of where Endo is. Do you understand what I mean? I don't need them to be players who are here to be substitutes. I need players who are here to be first team players. I don't want quantity for the sake of quantity. So we've got depth. It's like there's depth and then there's depth for depth's sake. The players who come on need to be people who are going to be game changing. If I'm going to spend £45 million, they need to be a top level player. And it's tough. I think Arne Slot has said it from the start, and I think the club has said it from the start. When you're at the top, it's much harder to get better. It's difficult to improve on the team that you already have and to then keep those players happy, because when you're buying the players of the quality that we can buy now, these are starting players, and if they're not starting and they're not going to hear what they want to hear when it comes to starting minutes, for example, Lenny Yoro was told, you'll be probably 5th choice, mate. You are not going to be playing an awful lot of football because you're 18. And we've already got a load of really good players anyway. So, yeah, it's something that over this next week will hopefully be addressed. I can't see the first transfer window under the new regime, who is also the old regime, to allow there to be no signings. I can't see that so much. However, I am here to be proven wrong. Clip me up. I'll see you next Sunday when we've signed absolutely no one and sold Joe Gomez. Dan, I'll go to you. Mo Salah, again, it's another goal. It's another top level performance. The pace maybe isn't quite there, though, is it? I think that I was starting to see a couple of occasions where he was just maybe getting to those balls in the past, but he is adapting his game, and the fact that he is a complete world-class talent, he'll always find a way to be involved in what Liverpool are trying to do. What are your thoughts on this situation? Is it as simple as just give him an extension? Go on. Oh,
well, okay. So first off, on the pace situation, I don't think Salah is slower than prime Luis Suarez. He's not as blistering fast as he used to be, where he could just outrun an entire team. But he's not slow. If he gets in front of a defender, he usually stays in front. I think today Lewis Potter was able to get a last-minute tackle on him, but that he was still in front of Potter before he made that tackle. So here's the thing: if Edwards wasn't essentially the primary runner of football operations at Liverpool with
second hand as well, Paul.
in the entire FSG infrastructure, if Klopp had, say, back in January said, "Oh, I'm going to stay another year or another 2 years," if he had done an extension, which I think Jim Hughes had posted today that Klopp said he doesn't miss the job, but he just misses the players, which I don't blame him. It's a very difficult job being a top level manager and having to go against Pep Guardiola and the alleged, in the alleged money laundering of Chelsea and Manchester City, the alleged financial actions of.
We can't prove that. These are allegations. We can't prove that.
That's true. The potential for allegations and for legal purposes, this is a joke and hypothetical and not out of the way litigious. I can see how to be a very exhausting job, and I think Klopp, being the person he is, and I can kind of relate to this, is someone who puts his all into his job, which means he also gets burned out very quickly. If you think about his career, he did, I think, 8 years at Mainz, 8 years at Dortmund, and then 9 years at Liverpool, and so that's a 16. Not plus 9, that's 25 years of managing. That's a long time. That's a long time to manage at top clubs in very different stressful situations. So I don't blame him for wanting to move on. If he was still there, those contracts probably would have sorted. Virgil would resign, Trent would resign, Mo would resign. I mean, if you think about the Henderson situation back in 2021, was it 21 or 22 we did his renewal? I think it was 21 during the COVID year, because Edwards was still at the club. The news came out that that Liverpool were not renewing Henderson's contract. Literally within 24 hours, he was given a 4-year deal right then and there. And we can talk about the reason
who made that decision, eh?
Yeah, that was very much a Klopp driven decision, and I think we can debate whether or not that's a good football decision. And again, this is just how Edwards looks at football, and Hughes versus how someone like Klopp would look at football. And even Arne Slot, who were players themselves. I mean, Hughes also was a player, but they work with him every day. Hughes and Edwards don't really work with the players every day. That's not their job, and they're okay with that. Where you have these relationships with them and you want to sign the contracts. For me, the situation with these is more of term length. So I think that 2 years is probably what they would want them to sign to, while Verge and Salah probably want 3 or 4 potentially. Now, it is possible they could resign. They can resign them after the transfer window closes, and maybe that's what
you wouldn't sign a contract now. You just don't. It's not necessary. There's no necessity to deal with a contract situation now. You
can also run down your contract till May, June, and then just re-sign with the team. Though, granted, at that point you losing them on a free to another club. I honestly think that they're kind of okay with letting them go, and I've always had this thought going through. I just thought that I know, but I think they're okay with letting 2 of them go. I think they want to get Trent, but it looks Trent's the only one that there hasn't been any news on, which has been the most terrifying for me. I would sign Virgin Trent and I would let Mo go. It's not because I don't think Mo Salah is great. It's because if you have to choose 2, those are the 2 I would choose, because you can't really replace so you can't replace Trent, and there's no center back right now that starts ahead of Virgil van Dijk. All the Arsenal fans saying William Saliba plays with 2 defensive midfielders, or Thomas Partey, Declan Rice. He plays with a back 4 center backs. William Saliba is not. He's a good center back, but he's more close to Ruben Diaz than he is to Virgil van Dijk. And I know Arsenal fans are going to clip this up and talk about it, but it's so true though, because Arsenal play with 4 center backs. They bought another center back, and they to play left back. They said, we don't want Zinchenko anymore. We're just going to put a Italian model there to play left back, left center back for us.
He's a beautiful man.
I have to say, I've never seen a player whose confirmations don't include football. I thought they have Is there somebody doing this a lot? Just slow motion walking around the pitch. There was no football in a 4.5 minute compilation. But then, listen, so would I. Boslight could be the same.
On the transfer side, I know we had talked before the stream, like when would Mamardashvili would come in. I mean, Stu had hypothesized probably Monday. If they get Mamardashvili, I think that they could sign anybody and it would be a good signing, a center back or a left back, which I don't think they should buy a left back, but that's another thing. A midfielder, maybe not necessarily 6, but someone who can play as a midfielder or plays in a mid position or forward. I think you can make an argument for either 3 of those positions. My biggest worry, and I think this is the internal what Hughes is also thinking at this moment in time, is that if none of them extend, Trent, Verge, Salah, none of them extend, that leaves a huge summer coming up, which would require easily probably 5 transfers. I would say probably you can get away with 4, but you would have to do a lot of work to replace those. And even though the signing of Georgi Mamardashvili is a good signing, it's not necessarily the position that's going to become vacant within 12 months, or even actually less now. It's more like 9 months before it becomes vacant. So that's the biggest trepidation worry. And I just don't know what they're going to do. I just genuinely have no idea what they're going to do going forward, because I don't think Gomez goes. He was in the squad today, so I do think it's interesting that he's still not in the squad. So there might be a potential that he does go. If Gomez goes, they have to buy a center back. And if they buy a center back, it's most likely probably going to be Gonzalo Ignacio. Seems like the most reasonable to me. But then again, if you lose Virgil van Dijk, then you still need to buy a center back next year. So there is this kind of cascade of dominoes that happens not just this week, but through January into next summer. And he's just got a lot of work to do regardless. He had a lot to do this summer anyways, just with churning the squad, selling on these youth players, which I've had no problem with selling the players that they've sold, Clark, Carvalho, and Sepp Vandenberg. But at this point in time, I honestly just don't know who they can sign. You can put a name up there. I'm like, yeah, you can do that deal. It makes sense. And that's not because we're like Manchester United, who are garbage and are buying Manuel Ugarte, who failed at PSG and is probably not going to succeed at Manchester United, but who knows? He looks likely to go there. It's very difficult to buy a player when you're trying to take a squad that has won so many trophies. And I think it's important for us to remember we have won trophies since 2018 for 5 years. We have won a trophy, and not every single season, but almost averaging out to every single season if you stack them up cumulatively and stretch them out. So it's just, yeah, like you could buy any player, and I say they'd be a good signing at this point. Like we could sign Stu and Colin to play wing back. I'm like, yep, that's a good signing. Throw them on there. We'll make it work. Slot will make them work.
I don't think my back would handle that, to be fair.
Yeah, I'm going to... This is something I've hypothesized when it comes to the business that needs to be done here at Liverpool. And it's not probably what a lot of people want to hear or want to be a possibility, but it is a genuine possibility. Jurgen Klopp's been here for 9 years. Jurgen's built one great team in that time. One great team of which some of the players stayed a little bit longer than they should have. That's how it was. It was a family feel. We all stayed together. Didn't really want anyone to ever leave. We should have been more ruthless in selling certain players. Divock Origi, after the Champions League, should have been sold. Never happened. Jorginho Wijnaldum was allowed to leave. Everyone was up in arms. He didn't get a contract. Turns out his legs had gone. He went to PSG. His legs had fallen off. He was no good. Jordan Henderson got his extension, in which Edwards left. Read into that what you will. That's just how it is. We brought in players during the 2022 season, having had Julian Ward take over. Julian Ward stays for 6 months and then leaves. Julian Ward then comes back as technical director. Read into that as whatever you want. Just saying. I believe now, I think the reins have been well taken above. There's a reins above which is sitting there and saying, looking at this club and going, right, we've got a number of situations that are all happening at the same time. We have 3 of our most key players, 2 of which is an age situation and 1 of which is a contract situation. They may well know what the answers are for that. That may well have been communicated to the club already, and they know these situations. They've already been communicated that they know that Salah is leaving. They may know that. I'm not saying they do, but they may already have had that communicated. They will probably do everything. If they aren't happy with that, they will look to try and change his mind and try and find a solution to that one. But it may well not be with money. It may well be with other things off the pitch that need to be done, blah, 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 blah. But there's ways of doing it. It's not as simple as just giving what the numbers that he wants, because he's already making, as it stands now, approximately £1 million a week from his deals that he's involved with advertisements and whatnot. Virgil van Dijk is the same situation. I completely agree with you, Dan. You can't replace him. It isn't possible. There isn't anybody who you can say, let's bring this guy in and he'll be better. And as you say, we could say William Saliba if you like, but William Saliba is not leaving Arsenal and Liverpool aren't buying him. It's as simple as that. It's just not a player that we could use. And then, of course, Trent Alexander-Arnold. I mean, Trent, I've kind of swayed from left and right to sit there and work out as to where I feel about that situation, as to whether I sit there and go, it can't just be the numbers, because surely, I mean, as a defender who does what he can go on and do, you're probably talking north of the high 200s. I mean, I think that's probably where his contract's going to be. Adidas take over next season. He is an Adidas athlete. I think they'll be very wanting him to stay at Liverpool, because they can obviously work together on the air advertising. It saves them money when they can put theirs in for the same situation. There's a lot of complicated sides to it, but there's also a possibility that Arne Slot has had the opportunity to come into this club, and he said with Richard Hughes, we're not going to do an awful lot of business, and then it'll probably get a bit busier in August, and there'll be opportunists when the situations arise. We saw it with Anthony Gordon. Joe Gomez has been here for 9 years. Likelihood being is he is fifth choice centre back. He is. He's not any one of our best players. If we do go on to say we've sold off a number of players who are fringe players, a number of youth players who aren't going to make it, and we make quite a lot of money, it could well be a possibility, which people may not like, is that there's also a second phase to this, and the second phase needs to be to assess the first team players. They are the ones like Darwin Núñez, Cody Gakpo, Luis Diaz, Dominic Szoboszlai to an extent, to work out as to whether or not they are part of Arne Slot and this football club's long-term future, as to whether or not they will be the team that we'll be going into with next season. And that might upset a few people, but Darwin Núñez has been a project for 2 years, of which we've seen some improvements. So far, we're not quite seeing it yet. This is a massive year for him. He will need to deliver, and it could potentially be that this is part of the situation, that they need to view him and other players, for example, to work out, are you part of this long-term project? Because if the club, like you said, Dan, next season, worst case situation, we lose all three. Let's put it on the worst case situation. We lose all three. This club is going to have to spend a lot of money replacing all of those players. And it's going to be upwards of £180 million, more than likely. And the only way that you can do that is to get your PSR in order. And this could well be a case of the club is setting itself up in a situation to be ready for that PSR. It's possible. I'm not saying it is, but it's something that needs to be considered. But back onto the positivity train. Let's just get off that one for a second. Now we're all off we're back on the positivity train. The positives being is Liverpool 6 points, no goals conceded, 4 goals scored. I couldn't be any happier with the way that we're moving. We go into this last week with the transfer window. There is a difficulty in improving this team. And one of the questions that I was actually put in there, which I'll put out to the panel as well. Down the panel, do we need to improve? We do need to improve squad depth and reinforce key positions. So Mo Protege back up for a few injuries from a real mess. Cole, what do you agree with this, that we are only 1 or 2 injuries away from things being a real mess, or do you actually think that the quality of the depth we have now means that we are able to manage the situation we have right now?
Yeah, we are 2 injuries away from being absolutely screwed. If especially if those 2 injuries come at center back for either one of them or a starting midfielder, we're in trouble. I think, like, even, if we get a left back injury, like, I'm very happy to have Joe Gomez play like a lot of games. Like, I'm good with that. If he's around and that's fine with me. If we get a center back injury given the amount of games that we have, like we are in real trouble. And I feel of two minds. Like I do feel like you kind of can't presume that you're going to have injuries. But if you then do have injuries and you haven't done anything about it, like there's nobody to blame but yourself. Given the injury record over the past 3 years, like I think we should be worried.
But should we not be buoyed by the fact that Arne Slot's injury record is actually incredibly good?
Super
and he says, well, the way we play football, the reason you had injuries is because of how you played football. Do you not think maybe he's backing himself that way?
I do. I actually do think that is part of why we haven't really gone in for more signings. I think, we've really only, not counting the backup goalkeeper that's not going to come into the team until
I'm an old man and retire
2027. Like I don't know when he's going to come. We might give him a 7-year contract and say 2 years, 2 years on loan somewhere else, and we'll see you later. Like
Chelsea style, literally.
Outside of that, we've had one approach for a player. It's well documented. Like and all things considered, like if the business side of it would have gone well, we would have signed this person. Like we would have paid the money. It's not a money issue. It's not we weren't interested. We weren't really interested. Like we wanted this player. They said no. And that's how it happens sometimes. But that does show an intent that does show a feeling, I think, that the club has, which is that it can be strengthened. And it can be strengthened now. So I do think that we're playing a dangerous game. Now, maybe Arne Slot is right, and maybe it is entirely because of the way that we were playing, which was very hyper physical almost, and like really strenuous, and lots of like tons of energy, and not just in key moments. Like we're just running around the field. But that has to be borne out. Like we have to see that actually occur in order to believe, oh, well, I guess our injury record was just because of the way that we were playing, rather than, just assuming that injury record is going to transfer over to the Premier League, which there's no indication for or against that actually being the case.
Yeah. I agree. Stu, same question to yourself. Arne Slot has had a very good history of being able to massively reduce the number of players who end up being best mates with a physiotherapist. And that is really important. And I do have a feeling I think we saw it a little bit today, and we'll discuss towards the end that Trent's sulky face, I suppose, is probably the best way of describing it, is that there's a clear plan towards load management, and we're seeing that it is a case of bringing players off, no matter who you are. If we feel that, as the club feels, as the players feel that you have reached your peak, we're not going to push you any further, because there is a lot of football to be played, and carrying on playing the last 20 minutes of a game that you win in 2-0 isn't really important. And I agree with that, and I think that so far, Arne Slot is an incredibly self-assured person. He believes in what he's bringing to this team, not only on the pitch, which we're seeing in front of our eyes, but also what he's clearly doing off the pitch when it comes to things like substitutes, times when they made, what we do with these substitutes. And I think it's a big change, but so far I can only see it as a positive. I'm very impressed. I know we've been scarred by injuries, and we know that things can happen. We know a big, massive grok from Brentford can fall on Diogo Jota and gives him a knee injury. It happens. But of course, there has to be a balance between, turning it into the Royal Rumble at the training ground and also having enough big egos, because they're professional footballers, that they all stay happy. Surely now that it's just a case of we're going to have to just wait and see, and it's obviously for us it's a bit scary.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, you're quite right. The Slot's he does seem very assured in what he does, but he's quite right to be that way as well. He's got the evidence to back it up.
Yeah,
from his time at Feyenoord, and also previously to that when he was at AZ Alkmaar as well. It's a system that works for him, and it's proven as well. Will it work with Liverpool? I think, again, only time will tell.
Yeah.
By the end of the season, obviously, we can make a lot better judgment on that after the likes of the last 6 or 7 years where we've lost Naby Keita, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Joel Matip, Thiago, Jota. The list just can continue to go on and on with long-term. Curtis Jones, finger in the eye. I mean, all that sort of stuff. Okay, some of the injuries you can't legislate for, but the one thing that does concern me, I'll add a little caveat into it, is that this isn't his squad. This is a squad that he's inherited. So he's going to inherit those niggles, those injuries, just like he has done with Trent. And I think he was very smart with Trent. Trent had a lot of injuries last season. He didn't have a full preseason. He was away with England, got misused there.
And spending all the time with his best mate Jude Bellingham on bloody roller coasters and stuff.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. But I think he's managing it right. And I think Trent probably, and I think there's probably going to be a few egos that are going to be bruised because they're not used to that sort of style of management. They are used to Klopp style of management. Klopp did have his favourites and he overused his favourites as well. There's no harm in that because every manager does it. Yeah. But at the same time, all these egos in the changing room now are going to have to get used to a completely different style of management when it comes to match day. And if the boss is saying, right, okay, we're 2-0 up, we're not cruising, but we look comfortable. We had a really strong bench, the strongest bench that I've seen us have in a long time.
Strongest team I've seen us have. Like
exactly. So why not make the most of that? And players like Trent are going to have to get used to that. They're going to have their egos dented a little bit. But of course, everybody's going to jump on the bandwagon saying, oh, he's out of contract at the end of the year, blah, blah, blah. He's going to leave. He's upset, blah, 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 all that stuff. I don't buy into that. He's been in that Liverpool side since he was 18. And he's not really been dislodged. And he's not really been treated that way before. Not been looked after a little bit or taken off with 20 minutes to go. And he still looks like he wants to run around. No, it's game management. It's load management. As you say, let's look after the players. And that's what Slot and his team does. But the little caveat into that is definitely that is not his squad. So he is going to take on a lot of those niggles and injuries from previous seasons as well. That's where I think it may fluctuate a little bit over this season, and we'll probably be able to get a fairer judge on the injury side of things after his second season in charge. I think properly, anyway.
Definitely. Dan, obviously, it's not their player's real dad, and he's imposing early bedtimes to certain players, and no one likes to be sent to bed before you're ready to go. But there's something that he's emphasised, Slot, in a lot of his communication and a lot of his interviews is that it's about the team, isn't it, as less so about the individual. And I think he's showing that as a case of that as much as he's looking after them as an individual, what's more important is that they're available there for the team. They may want to stay on and get another goal. They may want to stay on and get another assist, or they may feel like there's another opportunity, something personally for them. But he's gone out there and said, nope, time to come off. Ruben Peters is having his data sort of been pushed in to sit there and say that these players are ready and they're finished. And unlike Kevin De Bruyne, you know when he's finished because he goes bright pink. We don't have many players who do that other than Alexis McAllister. How do you feel about this Trent situation? Are we reading too much into the fact that everyone seems to be getting annoyed with him? Jarell Kwanzaa pulled a face, being substituted. Trent Alexander-Arnold apparently pulling a face, having got substituted. Do they just need to get over it a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of, I think there's a lot of things going on at one point. It's like, not real dad. the turning pink thing is a very, I never made that connection, but then I realized I'm like, yeah, that's true. They both turn pink when they're finished.
So do I, funnily enough.
they could use a tanning bed. My veins start pumping in my forehead when I'm done. Like when I'm cooked, because like you can just see all the veins on my face. No, it's What I'll say about Arne Slot is that when he went over to Trent, he's like, listen, this is what it is. And Trent will have a face for a day and then he'll be fine. Kwanzaa had a face for a day and he'll be fine. You know, the professionals, they'll get over it. I think what's coloring our perspective of the Trent situation is just the contract situation and the fact that he's best friends with Jude Bellingham, who probably has 3 more years at Madrid before the muscle on his legs literally just deteriorates and falls off, before he pulls a Michael Owen and just can't operate as a professional footballer outside of the age of 25. And so Trent's like, oh, time's clocking if I want to play with my best friend of all time, best buddy. You know, dad's gone. He's left me to go be with his second family. So, you know, I have nothing to lose, you know, that very
His real kids.
His real kids. Yeah. He's like, you know, I have nothing more to lose now, getting all existential. It's like, there is no home for me. It's like it's not a home without you, Jurgen, dad. You know, I mean, like in all seriousness though, I think that he'll get taken the piss out of like all players do when they get a car get a face. Like Sadio Mane had it done to him many times. Like the famous Firmino face, like with like Salah and him without passing. And that was when we beat Burnley. You know, there was the famous like Klopp took Mane off, and then, or I think it was the United game, maybe 5-0, or maybe it was Arsenal away. And he said, you know, like it's like, you know, we have so many moments of respect. You know, one moment of like disrespect is like, you know, it's nothing. It's water off a goose's back. I don't think we should read too much into it. It's that looming potential of Trent running out his contract and going to Madrid that is coloring those perspectives. And that's why every face he makes is going to be over scrutinized, hyper analyzed until he signs a contract. And then everyone will be perfectly, you know, fine and move on with their lives and do more productive things than watch football.
It's not like Trent Alexander-Arnold to be super analysed. You know, it's not like they make confirmations out of every single thing he does. I'm surprised we've not seen videos of him going in the shops, to be totally honest with you. A little few questions. Carl Matty's just said Oasis are back together in our chat. Can anyone confirm? Apparently so. And
that would be the best news that I've gotten in weeks.
And if you want to be at a gig with a load of 50-year-old men in Adidas matching rig outs, then
honestly,
it'll be there. It'll be tragic.
I have no proof. I have no proof of this, but I think they got back together because Nat Phillips has been dating Gallagher's daughter for so many years now.
He's broken the deal. He's got them back together.
But the mutual hatred for Merseyside has reformed Oasis to rebirth the magnificent Manchester music group.
I gotta go pick up a Stone Island jacket, guys. I'll be back.
No. Matching Adidas rig outs and bloody pink glasses on. Oh, it's going to be horrendous.
I'll say my babe.
It's going to be terrible, but they'll all be there. It'll all be there. Right, boys. I'll throw it out there for the final one. Your man of the match. Your man of the match. Not Oasis chat. Then Mank pair. Carry on. Stu, go on. Who's your man of the match? Don't say Liam Gallagher.
I know the obvious answer is probably Diaz, but no, it wasn't for me. Again,
biased.
I'm going to go with Konate on this one.
Jarrell is dead. Long live the king.
Yeah, Konate was Konate's best performance in a while. I think, like from last year. I know we haven't talked about the performances too much, but like he's immense, and that's a good sign because
Konate and Grav. I was torn with Konate and Grav.
I was going to say Grav because I think Grav is showing why you may not need like a specialist 6, but you could make an argument to buy another midfielder that's slightly better than Ouattara.
Heresy. We have to sign a 6.
Point to the sign.
We have to sign a 6.
Don't make me point to the sign. We need another 6.
No, the sign is that Gravenberch is the 6. Gravenberch is the answer. This is the way. He's the Lisan El Gaib.
Or like the do you know the meme where it's the astronauts standing behind the other astronaut?
Yeah.
Like, Gravenberch is the 6. Always
has been. That's gonna be me. That's gonna be me. I need someone to Photoshop me on that, saying making that point from last year. But in all seriousness, I think Gravenberch was definitely the man of the match, and I think you can make an argument he was the man of the match. Did he get man of the match against Ipswich, or did they give that to Jota or Salah? I think they may have gotten it.
No, it was it given to Salah? It was, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was. So I think I think that Gravenberch McAllister double pivot is just going to be immense. It's essentially a better version of what Brighton had because Gravenberch is a much better footballer than Moises Caicedo. Shocker, I know, but he just is. He's just a better footballer all around than Moises Caicedo.
Catching strays. Like, what did I do?
And Romeo Lavia.
I'm going to hide for a second on that one.
It's just catching strays. Like, it's not even involved in this conversation. Carl, who's your man of the match?
Underrated man of the match performance was Szoboszlai running about 20 miles in that game. The man just ran the entire time.
Like a marathon runner.
He just ran. He did. No turning red there though.
Doesn't just he just glows, doesn't he? And then looks into the 4K cameras and just
shimmers, pulls his hair back, and gets on with it.
That's all he does. Little wink,
Literally. I mean, I thought Salah was incredible again as well. I can't speak highly enough about him. Yeah, but I did think Szoboszlai earned a shout out based on just his like pure hard work. It wasn't the prettiest, but like just someone's got to do the running.
Yeah, someone does have to do the running, and I just don't want to see Dominic Szoboszlai as like the Hungarian version of Jordan Henderson, of which he is just a much better footballer than that. But it was great to see because I mean he had a tough season last year. He started out as the regen of Steven Gerrard, and I think we all got a bit carried away, to be totally honest. But to be fair, he started like a house on fire. But what had to be remembered, I did make a number of comments at the time that he was being run into the ground. He never played as many minutes. By Christmas, he played as many minutes as he played in any other season. It was an awful lot of football for him. But no, I thought he was really good as well. I think Gravenberch was brilliant. I thought he was in what was, I mean, a midfield two for Brentford made up of Norgard and Jensen, two big Danish lads who were there to knock you about. I think that's a big test, and I thought he came up against it and did really, really well, to be totally honest. Yeah, so the story of finding a six, like finding Nemo, is in fact the six was always within us, and we never needed to one anyway. So there's the moral of today's story.
Swimming.
The six lives within you. It's in your heart. So I believe that's we have signed a six. He was here all along. Yeah, my man of the match. I mean, again, Konate was fantastic. I think he's responded really, really well, hasn't he, to what was a difficult season last year with injuries and Joel Kwanzaa kind of, making his mark on the club. And it's difficult when to pick your head up. And then, of course, first game of the season, Joel Kwanzaa gets picked. But the opportunity presented itself, and I think he's taken it. And if he can carry that on, if he can stay fit, he doesn't look quite as big. He looks a little bit leaner. I think somebody else has mentioned this. I think they don't look like they're all a bunch of juice heads anymore. They all look like they've all been told that they need to knock the gym on the head because it's not doing their physicality better. It's not doing their muscles and their kind of, ligaments any better than what it is now. So if Konate can stay and put in performances like that, then Jarell Kwanzaa's back to being substitute. It's as simple as that. He's not getting in this team because Konate should be and is a better defender. So for me, yeah, my man of the match, I thought Konate was fantastic. I thought he did really, really well against a tricky forward line and a bunch of massive lads, which Brentford have. But anyway, on to the next one. Manchester United next Sunday. I will not be there because I will be in Mallorca drinking pina coladas. So until the week after, see you then. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.